Mike Phillips here, CEO for Dr. Beasley's. I want to talk to you a little bit about the dry sanding class that we teach. Now, 99.9% of people should never be sanding on a car. Okay, so this particular car has had the door repainted and there's a lot of orange peel in it compared to the factory finish on the rest of it. So I'm going to sand this down and get it perfect. But let me talk to you about the sanding class that we teach in our 2 and 3 day detailing classes. And remember, you can always get more information about these by going to drbeasleys.com. Now, like I said before, 99.9% of the Earth's population should not be sanding on paint. And one of the reasons why is because the factory clear coat is thinner than a Post-it note. The next time you have a Post-it note around you, what I want you to do is I want you to peel one off and hold it between your thumb and your index finger. That is approximately 3 mils. The factory clear coat on most cars is 2 mils. So it's pretty easy to wrap your brain around the fact that the paint on your car, the clear layer at least, is thinner than a Post-it note. And when you feel how thin this is, I think you'll agree, that's pretty thin. And that's why most people shouldn't be sanding on factory finishes. But in the car detailing world, a lot of times people will fix up their high school car when they get older, or maybe they'll purchase something. But a lot of the cool cars, like restored muscle cars, classics, things like this, they get restored, and then at some point they get painted. And the painter puts extra paint on them, but one of the drawbacks is a lot of times there's orange peel, there's surface texture, there's runs and sags, and DIP, dirt in paint. And to effectively flatten that paint out to create maximum DOI, that stands for distinction of image, the paint has to be put through a sanding process. Now, I've been teaching sanding for about 30 years. I used to teach hand sanding, hand wet sanding, and that's okay, but it's kind of messy. The slurry runs all over the inside, the cracks and crevices of the car, it runs down on the floor. And so nowadays, what I really like is the Eagle Abrasives by Kovacs brand of dry sanding discs, and that's what we show in our classes. Now, the process I'm going to show in the upcoming classes for 2024 are their 1500 yellow film. Now, let me just kind of walk you through this. What makes this unique is this disc is actually fairly rigid, and the interface pad is also very rigid, and there's a reason for this. So when you put this on there and you start sanding, it keeps all the sanding action on the high parts of the paint, and that's where you want it. You don't want to be sanding the low parts. And that's the problem with anything with a foam backing. There's a lot of foam back discs on the market, and what happens is instead of sanding on just orange peel basically is like hills and valleys. And you just want to knock off the hills. And anytime you have a foam back disc, it's going to knock off the hills, but it's also going to go down and sand the valleys. So you don't really level texture with a foam back disc. So that's why I like the Eagle Abrasives 1500. It's a very rigid initial standing disc with a rigid interface pad, which still has some cushion, and it keeps you safe, and it also helps to level the orange peel down while reducing pigtails. Now, the next sanding disc I teach in the class, this is the 2500. Now, you can see this one is limp. So it's the exact opposite of the 1500. Okay, and there's a reason for that. The interface pad is also very soft. When you mash these things together, now you have the perfect setup to go through and refine 1500 to 2500 sanding marks, and that's going to make it buff out really easy. So it's a very well thought out system, the Eagle Abrasives by Kovacs, and that's exactly how you actually say the name. A lot of people call it Kovacs, but it's Eagle Abrasives by Kovacs. That is actually the brand. We also have these in 3-inch discs, the same idea with interface pads, it's just a smaller disc. And in the class, I show you how to turn these into 2-inch and 1-inch discs for use with the Flex PXE80. Now, besides the sanding discs, we're going to use a variety of different tools. One of the tools is the Flex PXE80. And about 2 years ago now, I asked Flex to make me a 6mm drive unit specifically for machine dry sanding. You could use it for machine wet sanding also. And the reason why is because when you buy this tool, it comes with a 12mm, a 3mm, and a rotary drive unit. And these all work good for their specific application, but for sanding, 12mm is too large of an orbit stroke. It means you can't sand safely next to a raised body line or an edge. And the 3mm is basically too weak or anemic to maintain sanding disc rotation, so you're not really doing anything. 6mm is perfect. So we're going to have these in all of our classes, the PXE80 with 6mm drive units for using with the 3-inch, the 2-inch, and the 1-inch discs. This is another really cool tool that you saw me sanding with when I first started this video. This is the Flex, this is a 5-inch disc, the Flex FX34111. You should always wear a dust mask, but this thing makes an incredible machine dry sander, and there's no cord, okay? You don't need a big air compressor because it's not pneumatic, it's electric, but it's battery powered, so you don't need a cord. So it makes sanding really fast and easy, especially if it's your first time and you've never sanded before. We'll also cover tools that a lot of people already own, such as the Porter Cable, okay? So this is an 8mm free spinning random orbital polisher, and because a lot of people have one of these, I like to go ahead and show people how to use the tools they already own. And they can all be used to machine sand, level orange peel, surface texture, dirt and paint, runs and sags, to create a totally flat surface so when you buff it out, you have a mirror finish. That's what DOI is all about, distinction of image. So after we do the sanding, now we're going to go to the Dr. Beasley's NSP primers. Now, at Dr. Beasley's, we don't call these compounds and polishes because everything in here is inorganic. Everything else on the market is organic. And it's just old school technology versus the future of detailing. And besides being great with their spherical abrasive technology, because they're all inorganic, that means you don't got to use panel wipes to go right to the coatings. It's one of the benefits to using the Dr. Beasley's line. And we're also going to be going over, after the sanding, how to use rotary polishers to pull out your sanding marks, orbital polishers to make sure there's no holograms or swirls in the finish, so you can really create that true show car, swirl-free, hologram-free finish. And this is pretty much what is encompassed in our dry sanding class, which is always going to be available in the 2 and the 3-day classes, and always in the 3-day classes here in sunny Stuart, Florida at the OR, the Dr. Beasley's operating room. And keep in mind, when I hold these classes here, I bring in really cool cars, the kind of cars that really get sanded. They got a custom paint job, they got orange peel, so it's a real world class that has impact on you. And to get more information for these classes, go to drbeasleys.com. Look for the text link that says classes, click on it, and you can get more information there. If you have any questions at all, feel free to give me a call on my personal cell phone number, 760-515-0444. I'm always happy to answer your questions. We have at least 10 classes coming up for 2024. We still got some classes for the remaining part of this year in 2023. And again, you can get more information on drbeasleys.com. I hope to see you at a future detailing class.